Hi, I'm Karin Davidson. Now, normally this is a 2-day course, so you got to forgive the brevity. But essentially, EFT tapping makes you feel better. Really. That's pretty much it. Good stuff. So over your lifetime, you have learned specific ways to deal with the world. Now, you learned most of them in childhood by watching, experimenting, getting hurt, consciously and subconsciously evaluating others' experiences, finding ways not to get hurt, and much more. And I don't want to go into all that right here, right now. So what happens is when we feel an emotion is that it's a reaction to something. But why can our reactions be so different from each other? So let's take 3 people, okay? So if I start yelling at these 3 people, one could want to yell back. The second one could want to run away and cry and hide. And the third one might just want to sit there and listen and wonder why I'm yelling so much. See, those are 3 completely different reactions. And all 3 have been learned and tested by each person, even if we aren't consciously aware of it. So, how do we unlearn emotional reactions that we don't want? In comes EFT tapping. See, emotions are reactions. We create them. The emotions are ours that we create. They don't fall out of the sky, and nobody can make us feel any emotion. Now, of course, certain actions like being mean or being bullied or unfairness, it feels like they did that to me. But the truth is that it's still your own reaction, whether it's justified or not. And yes, many emotions are standard learnings, like disappointment, sadness, worry, and such. I mean, we all have them in common, but they are still learned, and they still affect our mojo. So basically, by stimulating certain acupressure points, you can actually lower and even neutralize the negative emotions temporarily. See, until you manufacture them again because you created them. But sometimes you only need just a couple of minutes to think instead of react. Now, this is what I call 911 tapping. It allows you to calm the heck down, allows the blood to come back into the frontal cortex, where in the flight, fight, freeze response, you've had drained it all out. It lowers cortisol levels and just gets you to normal, enough that you can think. Yay. I mean, can you think clearly when you're stressed? So this is a great trick to get you back to normal. Get your smarts back, right? But there is a second kind of tapping, and that's to clear why you reacted like that in the first place, which does take a bit more than just tapping on the acupressure points while you feel the bad stuff. And well, that's why I have a full practice helping people and training others to help people. But you can learn to do this underlying stuff yourself if you want. So essentially, we hear, see, experience something. And then we subconsciously, and often consciously, we go out and sort of Google our other experiences, which are similar. And we choose what's best in this similar situation. So what is happening is we react with a particular set of crummy emotions because it worked the last time, kept us safe. And then the time before that it worked. And then the time before that it worked. So it doesn't really matter that the original time we learned this lovely set of emotions was like at the age of 3 or something. So anyway, by stimulating the points while feeling the bad stuff, it actually balances the negative emotions and puts us back in control. And now I'm going to read the first part of an important article for you. It's called Acupoint Stimulation in Treating Psychological Disorders, Evidence of Efficacy. This article is written by David Feinstein, PhD, who, by the way, is just an awesome guy. But beyond that, he is great at explaining all this. The article was published in the American Psychological Association Journal in 2012. I will only be reading the first couple of pages. Here goes. Energy psychology is a clinical and self-help modality that combines verbal and physical procedures for effecting therapeutic change, while utilizing established clinical methods such as exposure and cognitive restructuring. The approach also incorporates concepts and techniques from non-Western healing systems. Its most frequently utilized protocols combine the stimulation of acupressure points or acupuncture points by tapping on, holding, or massaging them with the mental activation of a targeted psychological issue. Energy psychology has been controversial, in part due to its reliance on explanatory mechanisms that are outside of conventional clinical frameworks, and in part because of claims of extraordinary speed and power in attaining positive clinical outcomes by its early proponents without adequate research support. This paper revisits some of the field's early claims as well as current practices and assesses them in the context of existing evidence. A literature search identified 51 peer-reviewed papers that report or investigate clinical outcomes following the tapping of acupuncture points to address psychological issues. The 18 randomized controlled trials in this sample were critically evaluated for design quality, leading to the conclusion that they consistently demonstrated strong effect sizes and other positive statistical results that far exceed chance after relatively few treatment sessions. Criteria for evidence-based treatments proposed by Division 12 of the American Psychological Association were also applied and found to be met for a number of conditions, including PTSD and depression. Neurological mechanisms that may be involved in these surprisingly strong findings are also considered. The stimulation of acupuncture points, acupoints, as a component of psychotherapy traces to psychologist Roger Callahan's formulation of thought field therapy, TFT, in the 1970s. Variations of Callahan's original protocols have subsequently been introduced under the umbrella term energy psychology, with the most popular and widely practiced of these being EFT, or emotional freedom techniques. Most psychotherapists utilizing acupoint stimulation integrate the procedure into their own psychological framework and methods. Acupoint stimulation can also be applied on a self-help basis, and practitioners routinely recommend to their clients that this technique be used as homework as well as in the treatment setting. Reports of unusual speed, range, and durability of clinical outcomes by practitioners utilizing an energy psychology approach have been provocative. Proponents assert that the stimulation of selected acupoints simultaneously with the mental activation of targeted psychological issues is a major clinical breakthrough, while skeptics counter that the reported outcomes are improbable and certainly have not been substantiated with adequate data or established mechanisms of action. This paper will review the claims leading to this controversy and consider current empirical evidence bearing upon them. End quote. Now, this document is about 28 pages and is filled with the science and studies that have shown the efficacy of this method. It's on my website at howtotap.com at the top of the research page. So now, isn't it time for you to enjoy the benefits yourself?